The chamber of the Galactic Council was designed to inspire awe. A cathedral of glass and steel, its vaulted ceilings glowed with the swirling constellations of the Orion Arm, projected in perfect detail. Representatives of 100 species reclined in their hovering seats, their voices layered in a chorus of clicks, growls, and tones that mingled like an unnatural symphony. At the center, where the light converged, a hollow display burned with the image of Earth. Blue oceans shimmered, white clouds curled, and the green of its continents reflected like a jewel against the black void. For most of the council, it was not beauty they saw. It was prey. Humanity has no fleets worthy of the word, crooned Speaker Zoloth of the Core Dominion, his 7 mandibles opening wide in contempt. No legacy of empire. No standing among the stars. It is time they kneel. This is our decree. Across the chamber, silence followed. The expectation of surrender hung thick in the air, unchallenged by any. The humans had been given their ultimatum: submit peacefully to the Council's authority or be erased as a species. The Council's envoy had already departed Earth orbit. By the Council's own calculations, this day would mark the humans' capitulation. But in that silence, one presence lingered, an observer uninvited. Rear Admiral Jonathan Hale sat stiff-backed in the human delegation's modest platform, his dress blues immaculate, though sweat beaded against his collar. His jaw clenched as the Council displayed his homeworld like a specimen awaiting dissection. Hale's gray eyes studied the gathered alien powers, each smug in their confidence. He knew what they expected: fear, pleas, chains of submission. Instead, Hale allowed himself the faintest smile. The storm had already begun, but the Council had yet to hear the thunder. Far across the void, beyond the Council's reach, the human warship USS Resolute drifted in the shadows of Neptune's orbit. Her dark hull blended with the abyss, running silent, her reactor core throttled low to mask her presence. The Resolute was one of many, though how many, no alien could yet guess. Captain Elena Ross stood on the bridge, her hands clasped tightly behind her back. 36 years old, her hair bound in a precise braid, she looked more like a woman carved from steel than flesh. The quiet hum of consoles filled the room as her crew moved with disciplined calm. Transmission from Admiral Hale received, ma'am, her comms officer, Lieutenant Brian Keller, reported. Council has demanded unconditional surrender. Deadline expires in 6 hours. Ross nodded slowly. 6 hours. That was all the time humanity had been granted before the Council's fleet swept through Sol to enforce compliance. Helm, she said softly, bring us about. Signal the formation to advance. Keep us in the Neptune shadow until we break burn. Aye, Captain. Through the bridge windows, the black began to shift. Shapes emerged from the dark, hulking silhouettes, armored leviathans forged in secret. Ships of war, their angles brutal, their hulls bristling with weapon arrays. Each bore the insignia of the United Terran Defense Fleet, a name no alien had yet spoken with respect. Keller exhaled a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Even after years of secrecy, even after the long nights of labor in the hidden shipyards of Titan and Europa, the sight still filled him with awe. There were dozens. No, hundreds. God help them, Keller whispered, they think we're helpless. Ross turned her gaze to him, her expression unreadable. Let's not disappoint them, Lieutenant. Back in the Council chamber, Ambassador Richard Kane of Earth adjusted his tie with deliberate calm. He was a civilian, not a soldier, yet his presence here carried weight. Where Admiral Hale embodied the quiet steel of Earth's military will, Kane embodied the humanity the Council had never understood, the defiant refusal to bend. The Council speaker's voice echoed, your species has until this cycle's end to answer. Submit, and you shall be spared. Resist, and the heavens themselves will burn with your downfall. Dozens of alien eyes fixed upon Kane, expecting to see him break. Instead, he folded his hands, his voice calm, almost conversational. Earth hears the Council's decree, he said evenly. And Earth answers, we do not kneel. A ripple of outrage surged through the chamber. The great winged envoy of the Xerian brood screeched, its feathers flaring. The Core Dominion speaker rattled his mandibles in disbelief. Even the usually silent observers hissed their disapproval. You dare? Zoloth thundered. You are nothing. A dust world. A forgotten people. You will be extinguished. Kane's eyes did not waver. We dare, he said simply. At that very moment, in the far reaches of the Sol system, the Resolute and her sister ships began their burn. Engines ignited with silent fury, a cascade of fire painting Neptune's orbit as the Armada emerged. The stars themselves seemed to move. The bridge of the Resolute thrummed with energy as the fleet shifted into combat readiness. Across the commnet, dozens of captains reported in, their voices steady, hardened by the years of secrecy and training. This is the Vanguard. Formation aligned. USS Liberty standing ready. Black Lance Squadron deployed. Captain Ross lifted her chin. All units, this is Resolute Actual. Initiate Operation Skyveil. No signals beyond secure channels. We move as one. A chorus of acknowledgements filled the air. Lieutenant Keller leaned toward her. Ma'am, when the Council sees this, it's going to change everything. Ross's lips pressed into a thin line. The Council doesn't see us yet. Not until it's too late. Her gaze fell to the tactical display, a simulation of the Sol system. Beyond Jupiter's orbit, Council fleets were already en route, confident of a bloodless occupation. Hundreds of alien warships, each carrying the pride of empires that had stood for millennia. Against them waited humanity's secret, warships forged in silence, armed with weapons reverse-engineered from alien tech infused with human ingenuity. Ships designed not for defense, but for retribution. Back on Earth, civilians waited with hearts heavy. The Council's ultimatum was broadcast across every screen, every network. Surrender seemed inevitable to those who knew nothing of the Armada beyond Neptune. In New York, families gathered around radios. In Nairobi, people held vigils, whispering prayers. In Sao Paulo, banners of resistance fluttered defiantly in the wind. Fear and hope wrestled in every street, every heart. And above them all, unseen, the first shadows of humanity's Armada moved into place. Rear Admiral Hale rose from his seat in the Council chamber, breaking centuries of human restraint. His voice carried through the uproar, cutting like steel. You speak of submission, Hale said coldly, his voice echoing across the chamber. But you have mistaken our silence for weakness. You demanded our surrender. You will have our answer. He turned his gaze toward the projected image of Earth, then back to the sea of alien delegates. Look to your borders. Look to your skies. Humanity does not kneel. Humanity stands. The chamber erupted into chaos. And far beyond their sight, the heavens themselves began to shift. The Armada was rising. The Council's warships entered Sol with the grace of predators that had done this countless times before. Their fleets filled the black between Jupiter and Mars, vast lines of vessels from a dozen species, banners of dominion trailing across the void. They moved with certainty, for they believed this campaign already won. From the flagship of the core dominion, Speaker Zulith himself gazed upon the distant glimmer of Earth, his mandibles clicking with satisfaction. By this cycle's end, the humans will bow, he hissed to his generals. Their oceans will bear our banners. But confidence is a fragile thing. On the edge of Neptune's orbit, cloaked in silence and shadow, humanity's secret finally shed its mask. Engines roared like a storm unleashed. From the black, warships poured forth in a tide so vast that even veteran eyes faltered. Hundreds of colossal vessels, sleek destroyers, dagger-shaped frigates, massive carriers bristling with firepower swept from hiding, their hulls forged in secret shipyards under Europa's crust, beneath Titan's methane seas, in caverns carved into the dark face of Pluto. Their hulls gleamed with the scars of raw construction, painted in the stark insignia of the United Terran Defense Fleet. But the numbers broke belief. The alien fleets had expected resistance, perhaps a handful of primitive warships armed with crude fusion weapons. They had not expected this, an armada that blotted out the stars. From the bridge of the USS Resolute, Captain Elena Ross stood silent as the fleet aligned itself in majestic, terrible symmetry. She heard her officers whisper, awestruck. My God! There's too many to count. They won't believe what they're seeing. Ross allowed herself a thin smile. They will believe soon enough. Admiral Jonathan Hale's voice crackled across secure channels, calm and unyielding. This is Rear Admiral Hale to all commands. The Council believed us fractured, unprepared. They believed humanity had no teeth. Today, we prove them wrong. Today, we fight not for surrender, but for the right to stand among the stars. A thunder of acknowledgments answered him. Ross straightened. Transmit fleet-wide. On my mark, decloak. At once, the black veil of distortion surrounding the human armada peeled away, like storm clouds parting to reveal the fire beneath. The warships shone against the void, hundreds of suns igniting at once. And for the first time in the history of the galaxy, the predators of the Council knew the meaning of silence. On the bridge of the Council's command vessel, the Xerian admiral's feathers rippled in alarm. Impossible, it screeched, talons raking across its console. They were to have no fleet. Zulitha's mandibles clattered furiously. Trickery! These ships cannot be human-made. Yet even as he spoke, the human armada advanced, formation flawless, every warship moving with the discipline of years of hidden drills. Their engines burned like a rising dawn. On Earth, the sky lit with streaks of silver as planetary defense satellites powered online. Civilian eyes turned upward in wonder and disbelief as orbital arrays shimmered into activation, cloaked weapons platforms revealed at last. For the first time, humanity's true hand was shown, not desperation, but design. In New York, crowds erupted into cheers. In Cairo, people wept openly. In Sydney, children pointed skyward as shadows moved across the heavens, not in fear but in awe. The Council had come expecting surrender. Instead, the humans had unveiled judgment. Back aboard the Resolute, Lieutenant Brian Keller's voice trembled with both fear and exhilaration. Captain, incoming transmissions, all alien fleets. They're demanding identification, some are already panicking. They don't understand how we built this. Ross's gaze was steel. Let them wonder. A new voice entered the bridge. Admiral Hale, patched in from the diplomatic chamber. Captain Ross. You are greenlit for first strike authorization. Council fleets are advancing on Mars orbit. Hold them. Ross's eyes narrowed. Aye, Admiral. Resolute actual copies. She turned to her crew. Weapons hot. Target priority flagships and carriers. We cut the head first. The bridge flared with activity as gunners aligned rail batteries, missile bays opened, and plasma lances primed. Keller swallowed hard. Captain, we're really doing this. Ross's lips curved into a faint, grim smile. Yes, Lieutenant. We're writing history. The first salvo came not from the aliens, but from humanity. From the darkness behind Neptune, a storm of hypersonic rail slugs ripped through space, each shell the size of a bus, traveling at a fraction of light speed. They crossed millions of kilometers in minutes, slamming into the leading edge of the Council fleets with the fury of thunder. Alien shields, built to withstand familiar weapons, crumpled under the sheer kinetic violence. Vessels burst apart in incandescent fire, debris scattering like sparks across the void. Moments later, humanity's missile waves struck, thousands of warheads streaking in coordinated salvos. Council vessels reeled, their formations breaking as chaos tore through their ranks. For the first time in centuries, the predators of the galaxy knew terror. On the Council flagship, alarms blared as hull split and comrades screamed through calms. This is the Velkath cruiser Lyran, hull breach, we're losing. Shields collapsing, multiple impacts. Gods, they have too many ships, fall back, fall back. Zulith stared in frozen disbelief as his fleet was torn apart before his eyes. His generals demanded retreat, but his pride clawed against reality. These are savages, he spat. They cannot. But his words were cut off by the sight of the USS Liberty, a colossal human battleship, tearing through his vanguard like a steel leviathan. Its broadside erupted in thunder, its plasma lances slicing through alien armor as if it were paper. Savages, a human voice cut across open calms. Admiral Hale's voice, cold as the void. No. Survivors. On Earth, the broadcasts shifted. Every screen now showed the impossible, the human fleet not only existing, but dominating. Images of alien warships burning filled living rooms and plazas. Humanity erupted in a tidal wave of pride and disbelief. In Sao Paulo, strangers embraced in the streets. In Beijing, fireworks burst against the night sky. In Nairobi, chants rose, "We stand. We fight. We endure." For the first time, humanity was not looking at the stars with fear. They were looking at them with ownership. Back aboard the Resolute, Captain Ross steadied herself as the bridge shook from return fire. Even in victory, this was no simple fight. The Council's fleet still outnumbered hers in sheer tonnage. "Shields at 60%, her tactical officer called. "Enemy vessels regrouping near Mars orbit. "They're not broken yet." Ross nodded. "Then we break them." Her eyes fell on the tactical display, where the Council's remaining forces clustered like a wounded beast. This was no longer about survival. It was about message. "Transmit fleet-wide," Ross ordered. "No retreat. No hesitation. Today, we carve humanity's name into the stars." In the council chamber, pandemonium reigned. The delegates shouted over one another, their arrogance shattered. Reports of burning fleets filled the air, each more damning than the last. One by one, their voices turned from fury to fear. "They had nothing," one wailed. "No fleets, no industry." "They lied," another hissed. "No," Admiral Hale said quietly, standing tall amid their panic. "We built in silence. While you looked down on us, while you ignored us, we prepared." He fixed them with eyes that did not waver. "You wanted humanity's surrender. Instead, you've awakened our wrath." And at that moment, far above Mars, the battle shifted once more. Humanity's armada spread out, encircling what remained of the Council's fleets. The trap was closing. The Council fleets reeled above Mars like beasts caught in a hunter's snare. Shattered vessels drifted across orbit, their fires reflected in the crimson dust of the planet below. For centuries, these fleets had been the terror of the galaxy, enforcers of submission, executioners of rebellion. Now, they bled. The human armada pressed forward with precision. Carriers launched wave after wave of drones, darting between capital ships like swarms of metallic hornets. Rail slugs cracked shields apart, missile barrages blossomed into suns, and plasma lances carved through alien steel. From the USS Resolute, Captain Elena Ross stood at the center of it all, her expression carved in stone. "Status. Shields holding at 40%, her tactical officer replied. "Council reinforcements are folding. Admiral Hale's forces are cutting off their retreat vector." Ross nodded. Her eyes locked on the tactical display, where red icons' alien ships were being swallowed by the expanding blue web of Terran formations. She knew what this meant. The battle was no longer in question. It was inevitable. And yet, inevitability did not mean mercy. On the Council flagship, chaos reigned. Officers shrieked orders, consoles erupted in sparks, hull integrity alarms howled. The once proud speaker Zalith clutched his command throne, his mandibles quivering as each new report cut deeper than any blade. Velkith cruiser destroyed. Zirian carrier disintegrating. Entire left flank collapsing. Zalith's voice cracked with disbelief. How could primitives do this? His second in command, a feathered Zirian, screeched in raw panic. They hid their power. They lied. Zalith's eyes burned with fury as he spat venom at the thought. Then the Council must strike them from existence. Call every fleet, every arm, every. But his words drowned beneath the voice of Admiral Jonathan Hale, carried on open comms, his tone steady as steel. Council forces, you are surrounded. Power down your weapons, or be annihilated. This is not a request. This is your last warning. Zalith snarled, slamming his claws against the console. You dare command us? And then the USS Liberty emerged from the darkness, its broadside igniting like the wrath of gods. The blast tore through the flagship's escorts, rending them apart in white fire. The message was clear. This was not negotiation. This was judgment. On Earth, the battle blazed across every screen. Cities that once trembled in fear now roared in unison, watching their defenders not only resist but dominate. In London, crowds filled Trafalgar Square, chanting Admiral Hale's name. In Lagos, church bells rang alongside the shouts of children pointing skyward. In Santiago, fireworks burst over the skyline, streaks of light mirroring the chaos in orbit. For centuries, humanity had gazed into the stars with longing, wonder, and fear. But now, they gazed with something new: ownership. Back aboard the Resolute, Lieutenant Brian Keller gripped his console, his voice hoarse. "Captain, alien forces are breaking. Some are scattering, others trying to fight through." Ross's eyes narrowed. "And our fleet? Ready to finish this?" Ross leaned forward, her voice cold and resolute. "Then let's end it. Full offensive. Leave no doubt in their minds." At her command, humanity's armada surged. Formations split and reformed, surrounding the remaining Council forces in a tightening circle of steel. Battleships unleashed full broadsides, their thunder rolling across the void. Drones swarmed carriers, detonating in waves of blinding fire. Alien vessels cracked, split, and died one after another, their death cries lost in the silence of space. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy's predators were prey. Zalatha's flagship trembled, its decks littered with wreckage. He stood in defiance, refusing to abandon his throne. Pride warred with the truth gnawing at him: the Council was broken. Across his shattered bridge, a calm hologram shimmered,